it's time to have a look at some of the facts and stats that have come out of the 2025 season. We are only halfway through the home and away part of the year, but already new records have been set and plenty of player milestones have been reached. So let's take a deep dive and see what we can gather from 2025. Shout out to Swamp on Twitter, whose link is in the description, who is the GOAT at finding these great facts. After Adelaide's win over Brisbane on Friday night in round 13, it unlocked a quirky bit of history for grand finalists. 2025 is the first season where the previous year's grand finalists in Brisbane and Sydney have lost to the same three sides and in back-to-back weeks. Collingwood defeated Sydney in Gather Round and then went to the Gabba and beat Brisbane. Melbourne caused a huge upset against the Lions away from home before doing a number on the Swans at the MCG, and then Adelaide in round 12 went to Sydney and demolished them by 90 points and then held on to beat Brisbane at the Adelaide Oval. It's obscure and the first time this has ever happened in the competition's history. Early on in the Collingwood vs Hawthorn Friday night game, you might have missed something important. Superstar Nick Daicos has already achieved most things in the game and at just 22 is building an all-time great CV. But prior to the Hawthorn game, there was something he had never done before. That's take a contested mark. We all know he can win clearance and do damage outside the contest, but obviously he isn't the biggest aerial threat. But at the 14-minute mark of the first quarter, he was matched up on James Worpel, and Daicos finally held down that elusive contested mark as Steele Sidebottom gave him a little chip pass to bring down in the middle of the field. It took Daicos 82 games to record his first contested mark, the second longest this century, and the only person ahead of him is Matt Rowell, who took 84 games to record his own contested mark. Now we can all say that Daicos can do just about everything. Now the Western Bulldogs matchup against Geelong had all eyes on Bailey Smith playing his old team for the first time. The game lived up to the anticipation of being a thriller, but people outside of Geelong may have overlooked another important milestone in the game. It was Mitch Duncan's 300th. The veteran has been a mainstay for Geelong for seemingly ever and has an outstanding record. At the time of his 300th game, Duncan had a ridiculous win percentage of a tick over 70%. In fact, after a loss in his third game, Duncan has never dropped below a 70% win rate for his entire career. It shows how important Duncan has been as a Geelong player, but no doubt shows there is plenty of luck that dictates how successful you are. Luckily for Duncan, he landed at one of the best clubs in the AFL and has done plenty of winning along the way. In round 12, the GWS Giants got a crucial 4 points, coming back from 28 points down at three-quarter time to beat Richmond. They showed plenty of spirit and did get a big rev up from their injured star in Callan Ward, which might have got them over the line. What made the win more impressive was that Jesse Hogan did not contribute in the goal column. The star forward was held goalless for the first time in 42 games and ended the longest active goal streak in the competition. That title was then moved on to Jeremy Cameron, who was on 28 games straight with a goal, but then guess what happened? The following week in round 13, Cameron was held goalless against the Gold Coast Suns in a wet weather game at GMHBA Stadium. The longest streak is now with the Suns' Ben King, who did manage to kick a goal in that round 13 game and extends his goal streak to 17 straight matches. Despite winning the 2024 Premiership, the Brisbane Lions still had a couple matchups to tick off this season. The first was beating Richmond at the MCG, something they had never done under Chris Fagan. In round 4, against the rebuilding Tigers outfit, they finally did it, winning 118-90. But perhaps a more ominous challenge going into 2025 was their scheduled game against Hawthorn. The round 11 encounter was set at the MCG and gave the chance for Brisbane to beat the Hawks for the first time since 2020. In fact, in that period of time, Hawthorn were the only side Brisbane had failed to defeat, but they finally got over the hoodoo. It was an impressive performance as they ran out by 33 points in one of the best second halves of football we have seen so far. The Lions have just about every box ticked under Fagan and don't seem to have any more bogey sides in front of them. Despite Ross Lyon's pre-game comments about the Gold Coast Suns, calling them the AFL's Nepo baby, which took up most of the game headlines, the Saints in that round 11 matchup broke an unwanted record. The game was scheduled for Sunday afternoon, something rare for Victorian clubs against a non-Victorian team. Pair this with a poor run of form, and it did lead to a record crowd and not a good one. 13,486 people attended, which did make it the lowest Marvel Stadium crowd in St Kilda's history. Again, the time slot and the opponent didn't help, and I don't think the AFL will schedule many more late Sunday games in Victoria if they are not blockbusters. The longevity of Port Adelaide leader Travis Boak is well known. He might fall just short of 400 AFL games, but still might be able to play on next year. Still, he broke an impressive games record in round 11. That was his 377th appearance at the top level, and it was fitting it was against Fremantle. The reason why was that game mark of 377 is the most played by a player outside of Victoria. The man on 376 who previously held the record was Fremantle superstar David Mundy. Adam Goodes, Matthew Pavlich and Andrew McLeod round out that top 5, but Boak now sits at the top. He has a chance for 385 plus games if he can feature in most of the home and away season, and it's hard to see any non-Victorian passing that mark anytime soon. To finish off, with 3 gather rounds over, we now have a bit of data to have a look at. Surprisingly, there are still 5 teams that are yet to win during their trips to South Australia. Hawthorn, the Western Bulldogs, Richmond, West Coast and North Melbourne are all 0-3. Because of this, 5 teams are undefeated and are yet to lose. This includes Port Adelaide as well as Brisbane, who have the highest percentage of 176 in their 3 games, Geelong, GWS and Collingwood. The team that has performed the worst during the round is North Melbourne, who have a percentage of just 51.36. The other home state team in Adelaide are just 1-2, with their only win during the weekend coming in the first edition back in 2023 over Carlton.